For more than half a century, America's advantage in the sky has rested on two pillars: satellites in orbit and high-performance fighters like the F-15, F-16, and later the stealthy F-22 Raptor. Satellites provide wide coverage, but their paths are predictable. Fighters bring flexibility, but today they face integrated air defenses, long-range missiles, and advanced sensors that simply did not exist when the F-22 was designed. So the Air Force asked a simple, brutal question: what replaces the Raptor in a world where China and Russia are building their own stealth jets and surrounding their coastlines with anti-access bubbles? The answer is not F-22. It is something far more ambitious: the Boeing F-47 NGAD, America's first sixth-generation fighter. Designed to fly farther than the F-22, cruise faster than the F-35, and command its own swarm of unmanned combat drones. Before we dive into how the F-47 achieves Stealth++, Mach 2+ speeds, and loyal Wingmen support, take a moment to support Red Phantom. If you appreciate calm, data-driven analysis, not hype, hit like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell. Here, next-generation systems like NGAD, hypersonic platforms, and combat drones are broken down in a way that's clear and grounded, whether you remember the F-4 Phantom or you started with the F-35. Welcome to Red Phantom, where air power, strategy, and technology meet facts. Let's step back to the F-22. When it entered service, it was built to dominate any Soviet-style threat in the air. Unmatched maneuverability, powerful sensors, and low observable design. But its concept dates from the late Cold War, before widespread low-frequency radars, dense surface-to-air missile networks, and long-range anti-access strategies in the Pacific. Over time, the Air Force realized that even the Raptor's edge would erode. So they launched the Next Generation Air Dominance Program, NGAD, not to build just a single fighter, but a family of systems built around a new crewed aircraft, the F-47. The idea is simple. In the 2030s, F-22s retire and F-47s take over the high-end air superiority mission in the most dangerous airspace on Earth. Formally, the F-47 is Boeing's winning design for NGAD, chosen by the Air Force in 2025 after a secretive competition with other major contractors. Open sources describe it as a large, long-range, twin-engine stealth fighter optimized for both air-to-air dominance and deep strike roles in contested environments. Planned numbers hover around 185 aircraft, similar to the original F-22 fleet size. But each F-47 is expected to do more than a single F-22 ever could. Higher combat radius, over 1,000 nautical miles, sustained supersonic cruise without afterburner, lower radar signature than current fifth-generation jets, and the ability to control multiple unmanned wingmen in combat. In other words, the F-47 is not just another fighter. It is the manned centerpiece of a much larger system of crewed and uncrewed aircraft working together. At the heart of the F-47 lies its next-generation adaptive engine. Under the Next Generation Adaptive Propulsion Program, companies like Pratt & Whitney and General Electric built power plants that can literally change how air flows through the engine depending on what the mission demands. In one mode, the engine prioritizes fuel efficiency and range, crucial for crossing vast distances in the Pacific. In another mode, it shifts to high-thrust performance, allowing the F-47 to accelerate rapidly and sustain high supersonic speeds. Public figures suggest the F-47 will be capable of flying beyond Mach 2, with some analyses pointing to performance in the Mach 2 plus range while maintaining combat weight and stealth configuration. More importantly, it is designed for Supercruise, sustained supersonic flight without afterburners, reducing fuel burn and infrared signature compared to legacy fighters that rely on afterburning for high speed. In practical terms, that means an F-47 can enter contested airspace already supersonic, launch its weapons with extra kinetic energy, and exit faster than many threats can react. Fifth-generation fighters like the F-22 and F-35 are stealthy, but their coatings and shapes were designed decades ago. The F-47 takes this further. Air Force leaders and defense analysts often describe its signature management as a step beyond previous jets, sometimes using shorthand like Stealth++ to emphasize a measurable reduction in radar cross-section. Part of that comes from refined shaping and internal weapons carriage, but an equally important piece is the evolution of radar-absorbent materials, moving from fragile polymer-based coatings to tougher, more heat-resistant composites and ceramics that can tolerate higher temperatures and harsher environments. Older stealth coatings could degrade from rain, sand, and the heat of high-speed flight. Next-generation materials allow the F-47 to maintain stealth effectiveness even during prolonged supersonic operations, reducing maintenance burden and preserving low observability when it matters most. If there is one number that keeps US planners up at night, it is distance. The Pacific Theater is enormous, from US bases in Guam or Japan to key areas around Taiwan or the South China Sea. Fighters must travel hundreds, sometimes over 1,000, nautical miles just to reach the fight. The F-22's combat radius, roughly under 600 miles in many configurations, was not optimized for this environment. By contrast, the F-47 is expected to offer a combat radius exceeding 1,000 nautical miles, almost doubling the penetration depth without refueling. China has spent years building an anti-access/area denial network, long-range surface-to-air missiles, advanced radars, and air bases stretching across its coastline and the South China Sea. The F-47's combination of range, speed, and stealth is specifically tailored to operate inside and around those defenses, launching from more distant bases, yet still reaching contested airspace with enough fuel and energy to fight and return. But the true revolution of NGAD is not just the F-47 itself. It is the ecosystem of unmanned aircraft that will fly alongside it, the Collaborative Combat Aircraft, or CCA. The Air Force has openly discussed plans to acquire over 1,000 CCAs to support roughly 185 F-47s, meaning each crewed fighter could be paired with several loyal Wingmen drones. These drones will not be simple remote-controlled targets. They are being designed with their own sensors, weapons, and onboard processing, so they can scout ahead, jam enemy radars, carry extra missiles, or even absorb incoming fire. Early CCA designs may be subsonic with less stealth than the F-47, but the program is structured in increments, allowing future versions to gain more speed, range, and survivability over time. In effect, each F-47 becomes the command node of a small strike package, multiplying its combat power far beyond what a single fighter could do alone. This leads to a new way of thinking about air combat. Instead of four-manned fighters flying in formation, picture one F-47 surrounded by a constellation of CCAs, each handling part of the mission. Inside the cockpit, the F-47 pilot sees a fused picture, data from the fighter's own sensors, from the CCAs, from other aircraft, and from off-board sources like AWACS or satellites, merged into a single, understandable display. The pilot becomes less of a lone dogfighter and more of a battlefield commander, assigning tasks, one drone to sweep for threats, another to act as a decoy, another to carry standoff weapons. This approach helps solve three problems at once. It multiplies combat power without needing more pilots. It allows commanders to take more risk with unmanned systems, and it overwhelms enemy defenses by presenting many simultaneous, fast-moving, hard-to-track targets. For adversaries, the challenge is no longer how do we shoot down one stealth fighter, but how do we handle a network of stealthy assets, some manned, some unmanned, all working as one. According to Air Force leaders and reporting in 2025, Boeing has already begun work on the first F-47 airframes, with the goal of a first flight around 2028 and initial operational capability in the early 2030s. This aggressive schedule is possible largely because NGAD X-plane demonstrators flew earlier in the decade, de-risking key technologies like advanced aerodynamics, sensors, and propulsion before a production design was chosen. However, none of this is easy. Analysts note that NGAD will be one of the most expensive fighter programs in history, with individual aircraft likely costing significantly more than an F-35. Keeping the program on budget and on schedule, while still delivering the performance promised, will be a constant test of both industry and government. Still, from Washington's perspective, the alternative is worse, risking a future where the US no longer holds clear air superiority over peer adversaries in key regions. In the end, the F-47 is more than a new fighter. It is a statement that the United States intends to keep control of the skies by combining stealth, speed, range, and intelligent teaming into a single evolving system. The question now is, will the mix of F-47s and loyal wingmen create an air dominance gap that China and Russia cannot close for decades? Or will rapid advances in sensors, long-range weapons, and counter-stealth techniques narrow that gap faster than expected? Share your thoughts in the comments. If you value fact-based military analysis, not clickbait, support Red Phantom by hitting like, sharing this video with friends who follow defense and aviation, and making sure you're subscribed with notifications turned on. Stay aware, stay informed, and stay part of the Red Phantom community.